I'm so excited. This is my second year introducing the CavanKerry Press. CavanKerry Press is committed to expanding the reach of poetry to a general readership by publishing works that explore the emotional and psychological landscapes of everyday life. They were founded in the year 2000 by Joan Cusack Handler and Florenz Eisman. CavanKerry began with the aim to demystify poetry. While publishing books is their reason for being, CavanKerry also has a deep commitment to connecting with community. Since their inception in 2000, CavanKerry's mission has included the creation of programs that bring their books to writers, to diverse audiences where they live, work, and receive services. CavanKerry Press supports, Sorry. They support talented writers by providing a rigorous editorial process for manuscripts that engage the authors to work directly with the editor to produce their best possible work. They create beautiful books of high quality, offering opportunities to bring their work to the community and engage in community programs, and they promote their books across the country through their various distribution channels. I'm so excited to hand the mic to Gabrielle Cleveland. You all are at the New York Poetry Festival. I'm Meredith Starkman, and this is the best weekend of the year. Welcome, CavanKerry Press. Let's give it up.
Hello, thank you, Meredith. As she mentioned, I'm Gabriel Cleveland, the director and managing editor of CavanKerry Press. And I just wanted to tell you about the three amazing authors that you're about to hear. First, we will have Marina Carreira, who's a queer Luso-American writer and multimedia artist from Newark, New Jersey. She's the author of Save the Bathwater, I Sing to That Bird Knowing He Won't Sing Back, and this year's Tantu Tantu. She is also a visual artist who's exhibited her work in several galleries, including the Monmouth University Center for the Arts, and was the recipient of the Sundress Academy for the Arts Summer 2021 Residency Fellowship. Her poetry is intimate and daring, unafraid to speak of the love and passion between two first-generation daughters of immigrants, and to unveil the many layers of joy, pain, vulnerability, and pleasure that comes hand in hand with that love. Her words are the imperative. Open your heart. Be not afraid to share it with the world. Dipika Mukherjee is the author of 3 books of poetry, The Palimpsest of Exile, The Third Glass of Wine, and the forthcoming Dialect of Distant Harbors, and she's the recipient of the 2016 Liakura Prize. She's also an accomplished novelist whose work has won the UK Virginia Prize for Fiction and has been long listed for the Man Asian Literary Prize. She teaches at the Graham School at the University of Chicago, as well as Story Studio Chicago, and holds a doctorate in sociolinguistics. Dipika has a singular knack for spinning words onto the page that engage your senses so sharply, you feel the summer heat begin to draw moisture to your skin. Your nose peaks with the scent of vibrantly rendered dishes that make your mouth water. Your heart carries her stories long after you close her book. And finally, we are so fortunate as well to introduce Dr. Dianne Silvestri. She was the associate professor of dermatology at UMass Chen Medical School until she received a diagnosis of leukemia with a 10% chance of survival, which forced her retirement. But she is here, and we are so grateful to share this stage with her. She's the author of the chapbook Necessary Sentiments and CavanKerry's November release, But I Still Have My Fingerprints. Her poems have appeared in both literary and medical journals, and she's the co-founder and leader of the Morse Poetry Group in Massachusetts. Her poetry has the vital lifeblood of hope running through it, and her words are quiet but powerful acts of generosity, sharing her insights as both a medical professional and a master of her craft. I'm so excited for the opportunity to share this fine poetry from each of these authors with you. So without further ado, come on up, Marina, and enjoy.
Can everyone hear me? Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here sharing space with each and every one of you. Thank you for staying. And I'll just jump right in. Baby Steps, an Ars Poetica. This is the first line where I compare fucking you to being swallowed by a wave so blue it's another planet, and so big, McNamara surfing Praia do Norte big. Then I cross out fucking, call it making love instead because you've softened every edge of my tongue. Still, I am ballsy. I follow with a list of sexy images. The sun, a mango in the sky. Your hand, a butter knife over the spread of my legs. Our pink mouths, two schoolgirls running toward anything pink. Public bathrooms as private islands, breath like cartoon birds circling the hair knocked out by the turtle. I extend this metaphor, talk about how our fate rides on this turtle's back, that if we have faith, we'll get somewhere. The key, go slow, baby steps. I change gears though, contradict everything I said about the turtle to tell you my favorite place in the world is now your back seat. I use lines like not fast enough and bedtime feels a lifetime without you. Heavy alliteration follows nonsensically, not knowing anything newer, memory making mincemeat of me, feeling all the freaking feels. Then comes the line where I say how scared I am. Then the line about how scared you are. Wild Horses plays on the radio. Wild horses gallop across the page. A fire burns in your father's village. I talk about silence, how we are kindling to kerosene. In the end, neither of us are sorry. Thank you. Morning song. Driving home from the Stop and Shop, you glance over at the Clorox and pretzels and get the urge to wrap yourself around a pole like a snake, like a stripper, like an SUV yearning for the hot crush of metal. Holding her as she coos like a bird in the ocean for the first time, a part of you wants to tear yourself to pieces, pluck feather by feather, sitting at your desk, looking out the window. You think how close the planes get to the top of buildings in this city. You remember the last time you flew, the last time you faked an orgasm, the last time you rode like a ghost in the wind. You rode like the wind, only to make sure every part of you was still there in that moment. When there was a shooting in an elementary school, you drop to your knees. Thank God it wasn't her classroom. You run to the bathroom and throw up. You throw your hands up in the air. Google statistics of school shootings in New Jersey. Google, where can I buy a gun fast? Google, postpartum depression. What the Water Gave Me. And this is after Frida Kahlo's painting, 1938. The name where everyone forgets the N or adds another A, making me Maria or Mariana or any other immigrant's daughter, or Where Boats Live, or Of the Sea. The ephemera of my grandfather, spools, needles, and tins of thread, crisply folded bills that shine like emeralds in bathwater. The twins' reflection once tinted steel against the buzzing skyline. The Dairy Queens and Bodega Kings looking for loose change on the riverbank. The dresses that never made me the woman my mother hoped for. The birds never returned to my grandmother's cage. The respite from dark woods after dark-hearted men took what they never asked for. All the lovers I buried with beautiful lamentations. All the siblings I drowned and the one I couldn't. All the seahorses carrying my daughter's dreams. All the carnations blooming from my wife's palm. At the foot of this claw-footed haven, blood-red toes like black holes at the center of a galaxy dazzling with fire and ice and eye dizzy in my own becoming. This is a hard poem to read, so bear with me. If I weren't this body, or in this body, part of this body, and what parts of this body make it my body? Why does this body love your body the way bodies do when they touch other bodies, whose bodies belong to each other? This body taught to love boy bodies, hairy bodies, bearded bodies, abusive bodies, but this body wanted soft bodies, breasted bodies, perfumed bodies, girl bodies. Now this body queries its own body. Is it man body? Is it woman body? What makes it either? And does it matter to anybody what kind of body we embody? And who body does this impact? A lady body, a barred body, a body of water, a wetland, a body of art, a masterpiece, a body of bullseye, a target. Some days a boulder body, other days barely a body, bare and breathing, a shiny body like a star, like a moon-filtered body, like a magazine body or Instagram model, this body a lion, this body a lamb, a bad day body, a sober body, survivor body, medicated body, hard-bodied hostage body, heavy body, heavenly body, pussy-bodied, mama-bodied, a candle of a body, a cage of a body, eucalyptus tree of a body, thimble of a body, fiction of a body, fadu of a body, looking for another body to believe it more than a gendered body will somebody. Thank you. It is Mercury retrograde. So this is called Love During Retrograde, and it's in 5 parts. 1, heart under house arrest, the rest of this body, back road roaming like a doe on the wrong side of morning, painting flowers with its tongue so they will never die. 2, in the morning, birds place bets. Which kid will spill the oatmeal? Which one of us will yell, no yelling? Which witch on Netflix will make thump upstairs? Those unruly jazz ghosts, dust bunnies, papers apologizing, crayons quitting. 3, while Mercury tricks our eye into believing she is backtracking, here I am double booking, here I am last minuting, here I am filling applications for the imaginary 4-legged family member no one agreed to. 4, you got me the most magnificent month-anniversary card. It got me all weepy, wondering how a straight man can write such thick, lazy love over the page like fog. 5, did I mention the fog? Thick, lazy fog that goes on across space. Mantle over any sign of stars and the goats in my dreams who sing fadush to the rivers. Last night, I saw nothing out my window, and in my sleep, one of them called, lover, lover, volta, volta. When my mother tells me I'll always be a loser, my heart jumps out through my mouth and hauls ass towards your heart, pumping like a Newark boombox, a fired cannon red as fuck, dark as menstrual blood. Your heart will hug my heart hard as hell. Tell it, baby, it will be okay. It'll be fine. Remember, amore, our mothers inherited their cruelty, and I got so much love to fill that hole inside you she keeps stuffing with sawdust. My heart will nod, blue but wiping away thick tears my liver mistakes for rain. My heart will tell your heart she's always wanted a white picket fence, but didn't know it. Oracular, queer futurism. Space, the final frontier, but they've never seen the world we built outside this place. This oracular planet of day-glow orchids that bud and blossom and scatter into seeds that bud, blossom, and scatter. Auburn oceans that gather and fill, roll and break with glittery anemone, golden guppy, brave blowfish, and the greatest great whites. All strings of an aquatic hallelujah. On our planet, chipmunks in drag paint Callow-esque masterpieces. Winged elephants in suits write sonnets about their feet because no one gives a fuck about size and weight and fame, and all we own is our body. Hear a parable, a pulse. Praise the space we take up, You and me and our daughters dancing to the synth and psalm of twilight. Our citizens love like zombie lions, so ferocious, no matter what some Martian might say about their carnation fetishes, how animals that large will eventually forget. They two-step like God herself, stomped down on the rainbow and made mountain and commandment, tells us we are the ones they've been waiting for, a family of magical matter, mutating muscle into wild eucalyptus and bloodlight, where future generations will constellate, where trans birds bury time beneath them. The body. I envy your faith in the body, in its ability to cope, heal, suffer the battles that biology, ecology, man wage against it. A bellyache, a bitten tongue, a black eye. Alzheimer's, cancer, GHB. God only gives you a cross heavy enough to bear, but he never considered how hard the straw is on the camel, what it's already survived. A woman's body, which you deem insurance against hurricanes, viruses, racism, and divorce, even after watching Gloria Steinem interview a Congolese woman burned and raped by 20 men 10 years ago. She lived, you said, but what does her body house now but the banshees of youth, cataracts that see through things, planets of scars, a blood-pumping grenade, an ache so viscous and vicious, so wide the great flood becomes a shower. In spite of every prayer I fake through, despite how much Steinem says otherwise, our bodies more often than not are a forgotten village, an aldea, a bloodstained skirt on the line, a lover's dirty boots at the door, children chanting rhymes about cats, a steaming pot of soup on the stove, humming, humming. Thank you. So I am the daughter of Portuguese immigrants, and there is a word that is used in Portuguese called saudade, and there's no real translation for it in English. It can be described as a yearning or a longing for something that either came before or didn't even exist. So this poem is called To Know Saudade in America. 10 years ago, I wrote Saudade, an ode to first-generation down-neck Portuguese kids. There are old apartments, noisy sewers, and bodega candy in it, rosewater, and a lady cursing in Portuguese down Market Street. A doll commits suicide in it. This poem smells like iron and tracks, first period blood. I fall in love with this poem, send it to that awesome journal, cool new lit mag, the Paris Review, and New Yorker too. None of them publish it. 2 years ago, Poetry published a white dude's Saudade. I imagined the man able-bodied and small-mouthed, a self-proclaimed coffee snob, passing on the garbage Starbucks calls espresso. His coffee is Maltino, served by a Brazilian as exotic as his travel stories, hair vines down her back, brown and glistening from the sun that flushes his foreign skin in a quaint cafe in the nice part of Rio. His saudade, unpronounceable, but real enough for print, was reposted on Facebook and Twitter, becomes the poem a day my students proudly forward me. Tonight, I wear a dress I bought for funerals I've never attended. The sleeves stir with the whirring of the desk fan, like the one in the gentleman's shop basement where my grandfather steamed suits he tailored for the bodega kings. This dress never fit me the way he made everything fit. I tell myself grief can't swallow you whole, only in parts, so I have time to consider how many bees still exist, how many more luxury lofts will go up before anyone remembers rivers are breathing things. I think of fresh mint and chicken soup, of an old house and no shoes, low tides and lost rings, pine trees and bent pages, an immense olive field. Don't tell me what saudade is or that you know it. Ask me instead what names I have forgone. Ask what comes back to itself without fleeing first. I'm going to read two more. And my book is called Tantu Tantu. In Portuguese, it means a lot, a lot. So I'll read one of the title poems. Tantu Tantu. Joy like the pit of a dusty peach inside the dark when you drum on the steering wheel in traffic. When my leg crosses over yours in a sleepy wave. When finches fly from your mouth like psalms. I'm impossibly full, but still ravenous at the thought of your palm grazing against my thigh like a 2-day-old balloon, making its way across the yard to the child ready for every pop and pull. Wild, hungry joy finds me finding every way to laud a universe that always provides, but that you only praise when my soft fists become the treehouse your father never built. And my last poem is called Sonnet for This Queer Body. Hail the double take of men when I walk past, head bald and big earringed, smear of incandescent pomegranate over my pout. Praise the mom pouch poking over the faux leather painted on my legs, the O's grandmas emit when I make way for them in the supermarket. Compliments to the claws painted black and pink, gold-ringed hands that write poems to a world always extending itself beyond my reach. Pay tribute to the tattooed arms like pirate flags, the radical nose springing forth like alien bloom. Salute these sagging tits and coiffed cunt, these misty eyes cursing those who can't see such fucking divinity. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me now? Okay. Is this? Oh. Is this better? Yeah? Super. Thank you. All right. I have a book coming out on October 4th. It's titled The Dialect of Distant Harbors. And I see Chen out here signing books to an audience. Can I just know how many people are from Southeast Asia here? Anybody? Okay, a few. Woohoo! Okay, so I am going to begin with a poem from Southeast Asia because this book, it's titled A Dialect of Distant Harbors, and it goes into many different countries. And I'm going to begin with a poem from Malaysia. It's titled Aphorisms from the Malay Archipelago. In the 5th decade of life, mothers are grandmothers, matriarch of clans. Men unshackled like hermits seeking caves, detached to higher calling. As quietly as the sweet potato burgeons, so quietly does the iron rust. I, of East-West, modern ancient, wanted to glide like flying squirrels from Eureka to Datefront, certain I caused trees to sway, not the wind. Moored now, a pea expelled from shell with no husk to shelter under. What is gravy if it doesn't fall on rice? Even the sunbird touches ground, or is an aphorism, a cautionary tale. No matter how you chop water, it doesn't break. But uncontained, What is water but murky clay, evanescent cloud diminished to vapor? Thank you. There are a lot of Malay pantuns in there, and those of you who are familiar with pantuns may have recognized some of it. My next poem is going to be a ghazal, and it's titled Wanderlust Ghazal. My language is a Bedouin thief delighting in foreign sands. It understands the erasures of monks, the rituals of palimpsest. English has no word for Hemonto, no, not autumn, nor winter. No harvest goddess in a veil of mist opaquely drawn. The evening lamp in her hand gleams lambent through the fog. Her voice merges into the howling wind with abundance, desolation. Every year, Mount Kinabalu is still wreathed in monsoon clouds. Cloud messengers may be different, but some still speak of love. Malay Lascars sang of narrow boats with pineapples stacked too high, a grievous vastness to this world beyond human experience. Wanderlust is a disease. Deep from within it chortles. The light of the moon cannot be rooted, Dipika. Do not even try. All right. I'm going to try to keep this light because this is a beautiful day and you're all sitting on the grass with, picnic stuff around you. A lot of the poems in my collection are political because I think it's very hard to be a writer in the US nowadays without writing about some of the things that's going on. So this next poem was written about 6 years ago at a time where I felt that I was very unwelcome in this country and it was just getting worse. And I think this is not a US thing. I've lived in many countries and migrants are often told to go back to where they come from. So the title of this poem, which is also the first line of this poem, is Going Back to Where I'm From. Going back to where I'm from is to return to women who are goddesses, incense smoke and drumbeats, and women who bury infant girls into the ground, into milk vats to drink until they drown. To many armed goddesses who slay demons and darkness and scarcity of thought, and women who are vagina and womb, never brains or mouth. To stargazers who send probes to Mars, mathematicians of cosmic poetry, and women raped in temples, strung from trees, disemboweled in a dark, moving, tinted bus. To Bengal and Indus Valley and Chittaranjan Park and Texas and Ohio and State Street in Chicago. To meals beginning with bitter gourd and ending in milky sweets and sweetwater fish and mountain goat and homemade cheese strained through muslin so fine it passes through a child's golden ring. The mind travels as a flume, belonging here, rooting nowhere. The hunger for roads packed with parched red earth. July, the monsoon cool of runny streets. Clouds paused for the miracle of light on water, the sky's Tandav. Rains feel amniotic as the nomad breaststrokes through alien streets for electric air, even as a belligerent hunger pushes the boat away from shore. I am more than a dress or a sari more than henna or bindi, and more than skin scabbed with regrowth. Still further to travel, higher to climb, so much to uncage. All right. I'm only going to do about like 6 or 7 poems because I really want you to go and buy this book when it's out and read the rest of the poems. So this is just a little bit of a taster. I live in Chicago now, and I've lived in Chicago for 12 years, which is the most that I've lived in any city. And those of you, anybody been to Chicago here? Woohoo! It's such a wonderful city. So there are, of course, a lot of things wrong with it, but this is my love letter to Chicago, which I wrote about 3 or 4 years back when things were kind of looking a bit bleak. And it's titled, While His Guitar Gently Weeps, I Turn. While his guitar gently weeps, I turn to state, past lake, follow the melody, drizzling melancholy into a Chicago night, lake breeze, a caress of yearning for yesterday, yay, yay. I am drawn to this busker, his stage the street, strumming a guitar, his voice soaring over the traffic hum as he begins, Here Comes the Sun. I lean against Walgreens with homeless mother and child. Rowdy teens cross over, hurtling, hooded. They circle and zoom, surround him, shouting, Beat it. He smiles and complies. Jackson's Beat It, wickedly segues to Weird Al, and the boys shout, Eat it. The music unceasing on this easy congregation of grace. Evening news scrolls on the ABC marquee, death toll, ... But we dance, singing with mingling exultant breath over this transient field of joy. Okay, thank you. In my introduction, Gabe mentioned that you can taste food in my writing. And one of the things that I do besides writing poetry is write fiction. So I'm going to read you a food poem about writing novels. And I hope you enjoy it. This poem is in the form of a pankti, which is a very old Indian form that's used in the Vedas and very, very ancient Indian form of poetry. The title of this poem is Damp Red Earth and Pouring Rain. Writing a novel is a lot like cooking a good biryani. First, the manic frying, the heat of cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, bay leaves, star anise, peppercorns. Then set aside, revise. Onions reborn, caramelized, pungent with ginger garlic. A fragrant, even browning, then the meat thrown into an osmotic simmer. The basmati rice must be just half cooked, mingling, warm milk infused with saffron and the essence of pandanus, sprinkled rose water. Then a final rearrangement. Gently stir this meat rice, layered yet touching. Out with the spices, hard, embittered, harsh on the tongue. Seal to steam, slowly, on its own broth, then taste for imperfections. It is merely meat and rice, yes, but what you now hold in your hands will transport you to open fields of saffron blowing in the wind, of damp red earth and pouring rain. All right. I'm going to end with the title poem of my collection, The Dialect of Distant Harbors. And those of us who have migrated anywhere often feel loss of different kinds. And as a trained sociolinguist, I think my biggest loss was of language. So this speaks to that. The Dialect of Distant Harbors. Bengali is my father tongue. It's true my mother speaks Bengali and crooned fule fule dhole dhole over sleepy infant heads. But it was my father who grounded Bengali, watered curlicues of text, weeded enunciation through the teenage years when English whispered, "Put your head on my shoulder." When Indian schools spat out vernacular as the dark peasant destined for penury, English strutted like a boss. But my father recited Tagore, the Bengali sibilants, a song on his tongue. Bohu din dhore, bohu krosh dure. I have traveled miles, spent years afar, seen mountains and oceans new, but I haven't seen outside my door paddy glinting in morning dew. Bengali is the 7th most spoken language of our world. It will not disappear by my neglect, nor Bengali poets writing in English. It is impervious to our mad dashes and enjambments, our stutters in severed tongues. Yet I fear the absences from the vocabulary of my children. 7th most spoken language of this world, but its majesty unfelt in this foreign tongue I continue to write in, to reach you, to reach you. Bengali is still my magic chalice, refilled by the dialects of distant harbors. Thank you so much for listening. And this is the book. And I'd like to invite Dianne to come up next after me.
What a privilege to read for CavanKerry. And this is the book by me, but I still have my fingerprints, which is coming out November 1st. You can pre-order it now. As Gabe said, 9.5 months ago, my life was upended by a diagnosis of acute myeloid leukemia. Then I went through all the struggles of not only chemo, but a stem cell transplant, and many complications afterwards. My book, poems, come from that period when I was trying to figure out who I was again and find what was good about becoming a survivor. Start at the beginning with me, please. You know, I love your applause. It's just really wonderful. But if you hold it, I'll share more. Okay? We can do it at the end. We're starting at the beginning here, cosmic questions. I learned of a man in Bosnian town who, rather than rant and curse, purchased steel plates for his roof after scientists verified the 6th meteor strike in 3 years. Experts cannot explain this homing of galactic trash to a tiny terrestrial target, nor do they understand why one of my white cells turned killer. One of my chemos was a famous, very red drug, Daunorubicin. You save lives, you take them. Your methods I memorized from the thick blue textbook, a cruelty still vivid. You're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but I have no choice. My tears cannot bargain. I clutch my son's hand, beg God for mercy as the nurse clocks her push on the big-barreled plunger to send your scourge tunneling to my core to assassinate all proliferating cells. Oh, crimson savage, leave me alive. And my life underwent a sudden conversion, of course. This poem is entitled Doctor as Patient. In medical school, we all imagined catching infirmities as we learned them. Addison's, myxedema, every headache a brain tumor. I'm now awkwardly beached, my white coat surrendered, modesty breached by the gaping leak of the extra-large blue gown as students file in. I agree to be their mannequin. Let them interview me, smile and survey, palpate, percuss, auscultate me, because I recall my young stethoscope on early test runs. Now, ripped from my role as teaching physician, I body double as teaching case, naked in a snow globe. It's pretty lonely in the isolation room that I lived in for a month or more. This poem was written for a friend I developed. Poem for George. I've named this special IV pole George, my constant companion in empty hours through chemo and the eternal waiting. He tirelessly suspends fluid balloons and supports pumps that purr and sizzle like dizzy bees, pushing mysteries into me. George is strong to steady my step and sometimes winks his gleam at my gloom. He doesn't object if I push him away when I need some space. Infrequently, his tires accidentally roll over the 3 trailing tubes that hitch us together. He tries to fit his 6-wheeled stance beside the toilet in my narrow bathroom. He's become a friend, even if twice he nipped my ankle. But I understand. My anger slips out too, sometimes. Thanks. A bag of blood. In med school, I reclined once every 3 months on blood bank vinyl as a rocking plastic canister tick-tocked, tapping a warm river that coursed from my open arm. A stress-free deed I exchanged for a stipend of $25 to ease my austere living. Not once making the visit graphic, as if possibly paying it forward. So I survived chemo, but my doctor said I had to have a bone marrow transplant to sustain the remission. So that required finding a donor. Dear healthy 28-year-old man, how did you get the idea to be a marrow donor? What prompted you to let them swab your cheek? Why did you take a chance? Somewhere there might be a me. How did you feel when they called to warn you could be a match? Did they ask you if you still meant it? Still wanted to give yourselves? How did you react when your blood confirmed your chromosome for immunity was a picture of the totem of mine, 10 stripes in perfect match? Did you know about the shots that would drive your bones to ache, to make newborn cells to be siphoned, sifted, and shipped on ice to me, longing, ready, and waiting? Whoever you are, will your sacrifice be worthwhile? Thank you. So once the cells go in, the stem cells, it is a weird, condition to think about. The next poem is entitled Chimera. Chimera is defined by the dictionary as a noun that means one, an organism with tissues of diverse genetic composition, or two, a fanciful or nearly impossible idea. There's a man in my life, nesting in caverns in my bones, pulsing his excursions and navigating forks in my veins, almost as if he owns them. The blood in there I call mine, but its cells wear his signature. I pray this union will work, but worry about a mutiny. I must find a way to persuade the new guy to be my ally. God help the two of me to get along. Life continued as a battle for a while, and the next poem is Graft versus Host. I am now an implosion, my invited tenant disruptive. He inflates my skin to foam, burns my mouth's membranes, sands my blinking, rifles my gut, splots my hide like a leopard's. I never imagined such a question, but just who is in control? Whose breath is on my tongue? When I clean beneath my fingernails, whose cells do I quarry? The next poem is addressed to my husband. Advance directive. If I don't come home from the light blue walls of this place, it's not that I want to abandon you, to do everything alone. But don't forget to replace my voice with yours at home on the answering machine. Please take the gourmet cooking class you always said you wanted. And if you resume dance lessons, pretend it is I waltzing with you. I had to adjust to my disorder, if you will, or health, if you will, hopeful health, being chronic. The title of this poem is Maintenance Fatigue. I report back to clinic for ever-dawning symptoms, still defiant ones. This cough rocking me like poor clutch work. Spasms lock my fingers like crisscrossed crutches. I lick clapboard lips. I blink clapboard eyes and wait to be wadded up like a crossed-off calendar page. My doctors must be ready to abandon the stubborn enigmas logged in my lengthening file for a fresh, solvable case. Although they always smile, I know their smiles could be just carefully taught, not true. Still struggling, choosing the right pumpkin farm stand, Natick, Massachusetts. You there, you are the one, you moon face, like those of us who've been taking too much prednisone for too long. Nubby scar across your forehead, dried abrasion stubbling your chin. You are the wounded, strong soul. I will give you eyes to find me likewise. I had to go in for an MRI, the title of the next poem. Dejeweled, I lie, still, eyes closed, as the slab slides. I remember Venice, before all this. I'm reclining again against my husband in this narrow gondola, squeezing his hand as we skim forward beneath the low, arched bridge. This poem describes my experience as a survivor going through the battle still. A club for those of us who almost died. Come, let's gather to commiserate our losses, our jobs, our beauty, our freedom to act spontaneously, to travel without risks. We'll understand each other as we lament stunted energy and sex that, well, isn't. All the while, we'll agree that those outside our club only marvel that we still exist and conclude it's bliss to be alive, or at least looking like it. Readjustment to living continues not as we imagined. We mostly wish no change would ever have been required. I was able to take a trip with my husband to Montreal for a business meeting. I had seen in my hospital chart a quote, the epigraph of this poem, which is entitled With Feathers. The patient is at high risk of morbidity from medications as well as her disease. In Montreal with my husband, I stroll Rue Saint-Catherine, startled as a sidewalk sweeper, flopping his hinged dustpan, hops the curb while the still body of a white pigeon lies beak against the store's wall. Birds that bullet my kitchen windows may ricochet, injured, but usually snap up and ruffle, shrug off the stun, and fly, alive, maybe one feather missing. I trouble over the on-duty doctor's words in his note about me. Morbidity sounds like mortality. The crimson M drags my neck when I'm trying so hard to try. I'm almost there. This is realizing I might survive, an end to the ends. I vow to resign from mentally marking ultimates. Last plane trip south, last deck-flowered summer, last days on Cape Cod, last Christmas together. It's time to twist my lipstick up for a first-ditch list. Cast my fancy for fresh adventures. Tackle the tango, taste more reds, tramp a new trail to a new museum on a secret beach far off in New Zealand. Retail therapy, I began to enjoy survival. Declared fit to shop for groceries, I heat my carriage with bulging bags, offload bounty to my car, coax my empty cart on the asphalt to surge toward the highlight of the trip. At the return stall, I plunge the cart into the queue in clattering collision, thrust it through the nearest basket's back, then ram the two to engage some strays, grating cacophony while I assemble those flung pell-mell by odd customers who don't appreciate how good this feels. Thank you. Thanks.